Hello students, today we start our next lecture series on processes of operating system. In this chapter, we'll see process definition, process scheduling and what do the process do. So first of all we see what is process is. Process is nothing but the instance of program running in a CPU, or we can say process is a running program that serves as a foundation for all computation. Is it? So, uh, uh, what is actually the concept of program? Process actually, uh, when CPU can receive one program for execution, that program should be divided into small chunks, and that small chunks are known as a process. Every process is linked with the other process for the further execution. Is it? For that purpose, program is a passive component in the execution of our our job or our program, but the process is an active element for the execution of the program. There are some attributes held by the process itself, that is hardware state, memory, CPU or progress. Every process created by the CPU has its own structure. Every process has a same structure, means every process contain four part, that is heap, stack, data and text, where text can contain uh, all the coding information whatever we take from the program or the process take from the program, and uh, data section can contain all the related information of the process. Heap section can contain all the global element storage, and segment or stack section can contain memory structure of the process, means that process require how much memory, how local variables are stored, how global variables are stored into the memory. Is it? This is actually the concept of process. If you take any example of process, or if you consider, if you think what is actually the process is practically, the best example is when you want to search something on the web or on the internet, then you start a browser first. Is it? This can be the process. This can be the process. If you want to play the game, the first step, you can start the game application. This can be the process. Then you start the game. Then first stage of game starts. This can be the process. Means first process is enter the game application. Second process is the first stage of the game. Third process, if you complete your first stage, then next second stage is start for the game. Like that, every process is dependent on the interlinked process. This is actually the execution of the program. Whenever user sends a program to the CPU receives the program, and that program, at that time, that program is called as a job. And when CPU accept that job and try to execute that job, that CPU should have to follow the process life cycle. So what is actually the process life cycle? See in this figure. I will try to explain all the how processes are executed in the CPU by the diagram. Process life cycle contain five stages of processes, that are new state, ready state, running state, waiting state, and terminated state. New state is a process is just being put together, means whenever the job enter into the CPU sends that job to the new state. New state just create a process, means uh, for example, uh, if you give one program for the execution, that program contains some 10 number of lines. A new state can accept that program, and for that 10 number of lines, new state can create some first three lines as a first process. That is only the working of the first stage, that is new state. So it is called as, in In a Linux operating system, for construction of new state, one system call is used known as a fork state. So, this new state is also known as a fork state, or it is also known as a doormat state. Yeah, like doormats of our house. When you want to enter into the house, first of all, you have to put your legs on the doormat and then enter to the house. Like that. Process should be first of all enter in a new state, and then that process is walking through the running of it or running in a CPU. Is it like that? When the process is created by the new state, then that process is admitted into the ready state. In ready state, process has uh, 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 decide which resources should be needed to execute that process. Is it? It means process is ready here. In this stage, process is ready with its own requirement of the resources. Then that process is enter into the running state. For entering the process from ready state to running state, the one software program necessary, that is known as a dispatcher. Dispatcher is a program which takes a process from ready state to the running state. Is it? Which process should we enter into the ready state or running state? That can be decided by one another software program that is known as a CPU scheduling program. Means in case of new state, there should be one queue which contain number of jobs over there. In case of ready state, there should be one queue which is known as ready queue, which contain number of newly created processes over there. And in running state, at a time only one process is going to be executed into the CPU. So all remaining processes should be in a waiting state. So in the running state, which process gets priority to enter in a running state, that can be decided through the scheduling. What is actually the scheduling? How processes are scheduled? We will see on a next lecture. So when the processes enter from ready state to running state, in the running state, actually CPU involved here. In the running state, process execution is done. So I say that CPU is actually involved in a running state. During the execution of the process, if process requires some input output or other any resources, at that time, for activating input output drivers or providing the resources, that process should be interrupt and come from running state to the waiting state. Waiting state also contain one queue that is known as a waiting queue, because number of processes want some resources. And the most important thing, all of we know, we are talking all these scenario for the multi-user multitasking operating system. It means that at a time there are number of processes or number of jobs are enter into the CPU. Then CPU have to decide which job should be executed first and which job should be executed next. Is it? Like that. For that purpose, every state can contain queue to accept a number of processes at a time. But in running state, only one process is executed once. So when the process is entered from running state to waiting state, the new process which is present in a ready state gets priority to enter into the running state. If the process present in a waiting state get its own resource, then that process is enter into the end of the ready queue. And when that process gets the permission to enter from running state to ready state to running state, then that process again enter into the running state, execute it. If that process completed its own execution, then that process is comes from running state to the terminate state, and this can be happen continuously into the CPU. Okay, so the execution or the engagement of running state decides the performance of the CPU. It means more and more time running state is activated, better and better the performance of the CPU. Is it? And for that purpose, not only the this life cycle should be processed one by one processes. Every process should have to tracked by the CPU itself. By tracking all the processes, CPU can maintain one data structure known as a process control block. That process control block can contain the status of each and every process with its time, with its process execution, with its process requirement time, etc., etc., and etc. So, in the next lecture, we will see what is the structure of process control block, how the processes are scheduled by the operating system, what are the different scheduling algorithms. Okay, till then, goodbye and keep watching.